I was told that picture was going to come to haunt me one day, Phil, so that was after I was displaced from a small little island I tried to take over. So why am I in Texas now? So great. I have done this so much, and actually what's been covered already, so I don't want to repeat too much. I may actually flip through some slides quickly so we can get to some Q&As from that point. One of the stories I do like to tell people of how I got into this. I actually was a very much snot-nosed faculty member and chair, and I did not believe adult students existed. They were all one group students, and so my vice president gave me a weekend class with adult students. I was the youngest person in the class at the time. I thought my little dog and pony show that I did with the 17 and 18-year-olds would work. It did not. Probably by maybe, this is an all-day class for 5 weeks on Saturday, so probably by maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30, I was dying. And they were going to leave. They were. And so I called Barb and I said, Barb, help me, please help me. She came and she said, now you know there's a difference. And I said, yes. So I've been spreading the gospel since then, because now I trust and believe in the point that there is a little bit of a difference, and that kind of goes together. The other part is sometimes faculty members, raise your hands again. There's a small group of us here, and we're all sitting together again. So yeah. So technically, one of the things I like to do, I like to spread the gospel about this, but not only to faculty members, but to administrators. And one of the things that we faculty members don't trust, because we live on our own little island in our classrooms, and it's okay, because I enjoy that island, but I do have to tell people it's really not an island, it's an isthmus. When the tide goes out, it's okay, but when it comes back in, we have to connect with other people. So we really have to kind of work together when we get to this process here. I'll try not to do too much of the soapbox stuff. How many people know about ACE? Okay, great. Now, you guys can throw something at me if you hear me say ACE, because I hear you saying it a lot. Now, the president for ACE says that we are not a hardware store, so she says we say ACE, so I have to say ACE. But if it slips out, it's just a slip of the tongue because you guys make me do it. From that. Oops, I'm sorry. That's too great. So ACE has been around since 1918. We actually started out with creating the GED, and we work with veterans coming back from World War I. So we have a lot of practice in this. Most of what you're going to hear about started in the 50s after World War II, when we actually started reviewing military curriculum and education curriculum and occupations in that manner to actually give credit to those veterans, and then we kind of ramped it up from that point. We have two programs that we do within our section, which is actually called, they changed it, the Center for Education, Attainment, and Innovation. And we have military programs and we have corporate programs. Most people here have heard about our military programs, correct? Okay. How many people have heard about the corporate programs called credit? Anybody? Just a few hands? Okay, great. So we have just a few people there. It's actually almost similar program. One's for military, one is actually for the corporate guys. So McDonald's University, Jiffy Lube University, Disney. We've done it with a lot of groups. Dale Carnegie, I'll see those later on. So we do the same exact thing. We do this evaluation process, and we follow these very simple steps within the process. These are faculty members doing it. These are live, real faculty members, not people made up. And we go out and we do reviews. I just got back from Fort Leavenworth, and no, it wasn't because I had to go see my PO officer. We were actually doing a military review at Fort Leavenworth for one of their programs, which is actually a graduate program that they have with their institution. So what's in the name? I think Amy's already covered that. Credit for prior learning. What's the other one we call it? What? Prior learning assessment. We call it all of the different things. They all kind of merge together and they become one thing. So what it is whatever it is to your institution, it is what it is. And that's what you have to be, I think you have to be happy about that. But in the same way, you also need to understand that what other people are calling and doing. So we kind of have to work together. I don't think we're going to ever come to one true definition. We're going to have to work on that a little bit. But what we need to do is we actually need to understand where we're coming from and what's the purpose and foundation. Here is actually a nice little definition of what's going on there. So what is it again? CPO, POA. Is it getting over? Is it like one president that I worked with a few years ago? Is it giving away the barn? Yeah, see how we think about this. I always say you're not giving away anything because we're actually looking at this. We're making some kind of calculated decision on what kind of level of credit we're going to award. So we're not giving anything away. We're not just looking at it. Now, I know some schools have done that in the past. Did Kevin leave yet? Okay. I know some schools have done that in the past. They have. They've looked at a military transcript and said, oh, well, this guy's done this, we can give them this, and that's great. No, it's not great. We can't do that. We actually have to have some way to document this learning just like we do in our regular traditional curriculum. These are the different levels of PLA and CPO in the sense that we've done. Most of these we're familiar with, correct? Anybody see anything up here they're not familiar with? Any group or any organization? DSST, Dante's. Do you guys remember Dante exams? That's what that is now, DSST. Yep. Excelsior exams is the old New York College of Regents. I can't remember what the other name is for, but so the Excelsior actually does those. But pretty much we're familiar with these. We've seen these. The National College Credit Recommendation Service, NCCRS. Anyone ever heard of that? They're out of New York as well. They're very similar to ACE. I hear rumor. I wasn't old enough to be around when this happened, but this group actually kind of was a shoot-off of ACE back in the 70s. So they've been around since the 70s at this time, and they actually do operate out of New York as well. Lisa Schoenberg, I think, is their executive director. She's a great person and very, very knowledgeable in the area. So we now know, and we've already said it this morning, this afternoon, that there are new sources of learning. We can actually do learning outside of the classroom. That's blasphemy, isn't it? Right? We have to sit in the chair. We have to have someone talk to us, particularly lecture to us, but we can't learn in any other way, right? Is that true? Okay, so for my faculty members, I'm going to pick on you guys. How many of you have gone through a formal education program? Yep, as far as teaching, yep, for our faculty members. Raise your hand again. Okay, now put your hands down. So those faculty members who have not, raise your hand. So we got some shy people because those were more hands up earlier. But see, in the sense that for those people, we've done what we are looking at for PLA. We've done on-the-job training, right? We've been there. And so we're doing what we've done, what some of our students want to do. So we need to respect that in some particular way as we get through this process. Again, Amy's going through what public expectations are. I think she probably used the same source, which was for us from the Media Foundation. From there. Why? Why do we need to do this? What's important about it? Some people see dollar signs, and I have to say, is Kim still in the room? Okay, I made fun of her last week by accident. I didn't know she was from the admissions standpoint. But I told her, if you ever have a president talk to the VP of enrollment and you tell them about credit for prior learning with PLA, they would be all on it. Because all they're going to see is dollar signs for each student coming in. I just made fun of her on that point. But what it is it's not just about that. Hopefully it's not for the institution. It is about looking at the different things. And we've always said this. Amy just said this earlier. Those people who are elected and coming back. So if I tell you, guess what? If you come back to school and you only have 12 credits to go compared to 20 credits, which one are you going to do? The 12 sounds a lot better from that point. It gives a little confidence because then also going into the classroom, what I've been doing, most people just treat a job as a job. But if you tell someone that has a level of educational value to it, what happens? That takes their confidence up. They do better in the classroom. So, I'm sorry, I don't want to forget this side of the room as well. But we keep doing different things from this point. Degree completion. We have all been beat over the head about degree completion. This could be one to help us get there. To me, it's not giving away anything at all. They still have to earn it. They still have to be there. And they've shown it, and hopefully we've demonstrated as faculty members what they've actually done. Saving time and money. How many people had to pay for their degrees? So the military paid for mine up until my doctorate, and I'm still paying on that. But it would be nice actually to save a little money and have that done. And the last one is very truly looking at the outcomes. The more people who come out of the classroom with a degree, it does better for our economy. Right now, our student loan debt is out of control. We're actually everyone in this room, we're paying for that, for those people who are not paying their loans. How many people saw that article, I can't remember what source it was, about the number of people who are skipping out on their student loans by moving to another country? Did you not see that? Yeah, this came, oh, I got to send this to Christine. I was like, that's a novel idea. No, I'm joking. Hey, why did I think of this?
I'll tweet it right now.
Hey, look, who thought of this? So, but we're losing talent as well too. So you talk about not only losing out on those funds, we're losing talent. And most of these are some young people. So as you know, our population is aging. We're losing out on our youngsters who basically will hopefully be leading the country in the future. So there's a lot of different things that happen. I love it when people talk about the brain drain and all of the different things from the different states and stuff. Sometimes I think it's good. You know, when I was in Maine, we had a huge issue with that, with people getting their degrees and leaving the state. And I was like, but guess what? You gained some people as well. Hey, I just moved here. But they were like, that's a downfall. No, just but we can move over, and that's what we want. That's what education is about. It's about social mobility, correct? So why would you be mad? You're telling people to get a degree, to have flexibility, but then you're not when you move out of the state. We totally contradict ourselves when we do these kind of things. Okay, off soapbox, sorry. This is the purpose for us in there. So there are a lot of models. So people are saying, okay, who's really doing this? 1 or 2 schools. So we know Eastfield's doing it, right? Who else is doing it? Colleges, was Mountain View doing some of it? Is El Centro? I heard some guy from El Centro, right? You from El Centro? You guys are doing it? But there are a lot more people doing it. So, and there's funding out there as well. We talked about the alternative credit project that came up, and actually that was through the Gates Foundation. So that's another positive thing going on there. Lumina has put a lot of money out as well to study this. The only thing I think that hurt the Gates Foundation was that report they did on the state of faculty last spring. Did you guys see that one? 2015? Okay, I must not have a life and read way too much, because you guys are like, no way, I didn't read that one. I have to do that. But yeah, so there were some comments about us as faculty members, and that we're stuck in our ways, we're not moving, we're holding back the nation, and everything. I didn't like those kind of things they said about me, or you guys either, from that. So Department of Ed, Department of Labor, putting a lot of money into special projects as well in studies to get going. And we have states doing things too. Where is Dr. Tina at? I saw her here earlier. There she goes. Dr. Tina, you guys want to talk to her because she is from the Minnesota area, right? Did I say Minnesota right? Or was it Minnesota or something? Yeah. I'm sorry. Ms. Q did a wonderful job a few years ago, about what, 5 years ago, 7? Yep, they did a great job in their Credit for Prior Learning project, and they actually did it gangbusters across the entire state. So they got together. I don't know if they used Jedi mind tricks on the faculty councils or whatever else, but they got the faculty together and they all agreed. Can you imagine that? The entire state of Minnesota, all faculty members agreed to roll out with this PLA plan. So Minnesota's done it. We also have the Midwest Compact, so we have states like Ohio and Michigan working together. Can you imagine those guys? Never, not one bit. But they're seeing the light, and their faculties are understanding that as well. Tennessee has just come out with theirs, and I think that was mentioned earlier in that sense. Georgia, really good work they've done with their GOLD program. I think Mary Ellen Donna was the head of that one. She did a really good job of setting that up, getting the state schools together at least. And whenever the University of Georgia says it's okay to do it, it's okay to do it, because that's what happened there. And Rishi, with the adult completion network, they've done a good job going across the country, spreading, again, the word about what's going on. So they're telling people on the East Coast what people on the West Coast are doing, and vice versa. So again, we just have to communicate and talk, but the models are out there. They're out there, and they're easy for us to do. So it's not like a really hard job, because we can go back there and see what other people have done. I like to focus on campuses. And I think who's up here? Oh, Fayetteville Tech, North Carolina, Fort Bragg area. Everybody pretty much refer to Fort Bragg. They did a great job with their program. I think they got a FISPE grant. Yeah, I think they got a grant, and what happened is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember, how did they do this? They got, this is dramatic, isn't it? They got together with all of the faculty from certain programs, and they said, guess what? There's a military occupation at Fort Bragg, 30 miles up the road. that mirrors our program. Oh my God, they were excited. And so they just got the faculty together and they looked, they said, okay, there are military occupations that mirror what? Civilian occupations. There's got to be similarities in training, right? So let's get together and do it. So they did. And they got the faculty together of those programs, worked with them, and then they set up a great database. So if you go to their website, you'll see it, you can play around with it. Were they giving away the bond? No, they were not. You'll see some occupations, and I'm sorry, real quick. How many people were Marines in the room? Anybody, Marines? Anyone has sons and daughters who are Marines? Husband? Okay, sorry, spouse as well too for that. But, okay, I do like to pick on the Marines. Just to let you know that, I do that. But when I was in Yuma, Arizona, I spent a lot of time around Marines, so I feel I'm like one of them and I can pick on them all the time. So, what they did is they put together some of the military occupations from all of the branches. And what they did is they said, hey, okay, what can we do? How can we mirror our curriculum to theirs? So if we talk about this, and I mentioned this earlier, so if we look at criminal justice, we think all police officers are trained the same, blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. Air Force and Army and even Navy do a little bit different with their policing. It's a little bit more force protection. So in translation over to civilian terms, we're talking about community protection. Serving the community, those kind of things there. When we talk to the Marines, it's a little bit more physical security. They're talking about prisoners of war. We haven't got to that point in our society yet, hopefully, that we need that kind of policing. So when you go to their website, you're going to see, why is it the Army gets more courses? Why is the Navy getting more courses than the Marines? They only get 2. It wasn't that the Marines weren't smart enough, maybe. But I had to throw it in. But it wasn't that. It's just because of the way their programs are going. So again, it takes a lot of work, it takes some time, it takes some dedication, but the thing is that it is possible. These schools show it. Central Texas College, you guys know this, you heard about that earlier today with the database they have up. That's a great data, and that's another good example too. If you pull up an MOS within their database, you may have 2 courses that the people get credit for. That's okay, because they match it to their curriculum. I'm fine with that, because that's how they're doing it. You're not giving away anything at all. You're making a true evaluation and making that connection in there. Who's the next one? Coastline. Coastline has done a great job with all of the branches. If you go to their website, you can pull up all of the branches, including the Coast Guard, which is under Department of Homeland Security, sorry. Pull them up. Coastline's done a great job. And the reason why I'm dropping names, if you guys want to write these down, so just in case you call people, Joycelyn Groot, G-R-O-O-T, was the person who headed up the project at Coastline Community College. She is now Dean or VP of Community Education. I think her title has changed, but she actually headed that up. So again, there's people to contact with. And the funniest thing is the part of California they're in, I think they're near Orange or something, California. If you talk to the schools around them, nobody else is doing this. So again, you got to kind of share a little bit of the wealth, but they have the naval station not too far from San Diego, right down the road from them, so it makes it easy. So they do focus more on Navy. They do focus a little bit more Air Force. There's an Air Force base, Vandenberg, not too far away, and Miramar is not too far away as well. Miami-Dade College actually did something very simple. They work with the Coast Guard in some of their mapping, but they also map Army as well, coming from the northern Georgia area. So they mapped their healthcare admin, maritime security, which was actually criminal justice, and IT programs. So the examples are out there for everyone to look at. As I mentioned earlier, it can also work on the system level. So if everyone within the district want to get together and do this, or we want to do this across the whole state, hint, this is the way to do it. Go check these people out. Georgia, West Virginia, and Tennessee. Tennessee just went to phase 3 of their program. I was there in February, and so they're really rolling this out and rocking it at this point. So, and they have full leadership from the governor on down, which is great when you can actually have that. I think, is Tricia on? Okay. I know Tricia has done this with some of the groups as well.
In each of the clinics, takes teams through the prior learning assessment implementation matrix. This is also posted on our website, so any of you can use this.
Yeah. This is great just to give out on your campus. Just kind of blindly take it out, take it to different departments, compare your responses that you get, and they will be so different based on your colors, but based on the levels that you think you're at, and you'll really figure out where you're at as far as looking at starting up within your PL project. It has to be a full campus thing. Everyone has to know, from admissions to advisors to financial aid to the faculty members, and technically the faculty members should be the first ones to know because you're matching the curriculum up. They actually do it, they do on the curriculum at that point. So before I start into my real good dog and pony show about the review process, are there any questions? Just give me a history net. Any? Have I scared anybody yet? Not yet? Okay, great. Christine used to let me talk before lunch because I can hold you guys hostage for lunch, but now it's the end of the day. I can really hold you hostage from that point. So I always joke and tell people, the reason why I actually became a dean was I was picked out of the group because I was the largest guy that actually stand by the door and make the faculty vote. So she's like being a bouncer. So the ACE evaluation process, it is basically, again, it is a tough process, and we have some faculty members, I have to say, who just can't get along with it just because of the way it works. This is a full collaborative process with the faculty members. We're working with faculty members from all across the country, so again, my example of my team at Fort Leavenworth was that, I had actually never worked with these two reviewers before, so for us to review something over a day and then come to a consensus when we don't even know our own working styles or so, it's pretty much tough at that point, but then to be sequestered in the room for 3 hours with them is really hard from there. So the review process, there is a charge of the faculty, and for me, I summarize this in one thing. My charge is to make sure if I would do this at my own institution, for my own program, then I'm pretty sure when I open up the gates and I start reflecting on most of the programs I know across the country and my colleagues or so, we would actually agree on the same process, and we would go there. So my reflection is what's going to happen in the classroom. How is the faculty member going to look at this? Coming from a curriculum development standpoint, actually from an academic administrator standpoint, and from a faculty member standpoint, this is where I'm coming from. And actually, for those people who are any registrars in the room, so I even think like these guys sometimes when we write up the descriptions. So I make sure that the registrar is going to understand this as well, so it's clear. As I mentioned earlier, we do a number of different levels of review. We have the corporate, we have the military, from the standpoint of looking at our activities. We are guided by this handbook here, so it's not willy-nilly in any particular way. We all pretty much know this, learn this, and most of the time you know this before you even go out on your first review. I'm trying to remember. I think WAS, if I remember, they are the smallest group represented within our database for our faculty members. I think we have in the last count around a little bit over 1,000 faculty members from across the country, but they all represent all of the national accrediting bodies, and that's one of the areas we have to focus on because our faculty members have to come from regionally accredited institutions from there. So looking at the process here, does this look familiar to anyone? If we just talk about reviewing items, material, does this look familiar? Faculty members, does this kind of bring back flashbacks or horror stories or anything? Curriculum review process, right here and there. That's all this is. This is how we've matched it up because faculty members created this process way back in the 60s and whatever, 70s from that point before I was born. From there. So we look at core syllabi. Actually, military calls it something different. It could be a POI, Program of Instruction. Navy calls it a TCCD, Training Control, something document. Oh, command document. I think Coast Guard actually calls it a POI as well, so Program of Instruction. Marines, they just call it the Red Book, which is kind of fun. I'm not making fun, it's the Red Book. No, it is. They just call it the Red Book. So we look at that. Again, very familiar to what our curriculum review process. What are we looking at here? We're talking about content, scope, and rigor. This is what we're focusing on during our reviews, and evaluation process from there. All of these areas, and you can see the wicked Venn diagram, all of these areas touch, and they must be congruent with each other. So if I'm looking at learning outcomes, those learning outcomes better match those assessments. Those assessments better match down in the problem, and we're looking at the depth and the breadth of the courses all over from that point. But as long as they're touching, as long as they're congruent with each other, we may be happy as a faculty review panel when we're looking at these courses. Bloom's taxonomy, both the old and the new, we reflect on those as well because we know what our learning outcomes are going on from terminal to actually the small subject areas within our curriculum. We're focusing on the same thing. And there's again that content, scope, and rigor has to be at that level. And that bottom statement, I put that, we put that there for a reason, actually. And one thing is, I like to say, because there was an example that I think Kevin had mentioned earlier about someone, the Naval Academy story that he told earlier. When we do our reviews, it is not reflective on who the learner is. It is actually based on the curriculum. So I have been at the Naval War Institute or college in Rhode Island, and we've actually done credit reviews, and people are not happy with us because we make a credit recommendation of undergraduate, and we're like, these guys already have their bachelor's degrees. This should be a graduate level because they already have their bachelor's. No. We're looking at what the course reflects right then and there in front of us, and if it's at the undergraduate level, lower division or upper division, that's the credit recommendation that will be made, and they are not happy with that. And there have been times where I'm planning in my head, exit strategy, okay? You lay down a suppressive fire here, I'll get the van from the point. And I mean, seriously, sometimes they are not happy, and this was what happened at Fort Leavenworth because they wanted graduate credit, and we just said it's not there. And everything that was in the course should have been there except for the assessments. And that's what we told them. There was no way they could document to us the assessments that they were doing were at the graduate level. We didn't see anything that showed us that it was at the upper division level, and that's what we awarded. And again, they were not happy about that. But again, it doesn't matter who's paying the bill, who's holding us hostage or anything. It's just how that reflection again. And that's the commitment we have to all of the other institutions across the country that we are representing when we make these credit recommendations from there. So this pretty much is kind of what it is. That's what our job is from that point. One of the things I love about our review process is multidisciplinary, and we don't do that on our own individual campuses. There's a guy by the name of Jim Collins Jackson, Florida State College in Jacksonville, Florida. He talks about institutional snobbery. And I love the topic because he talks about how we are snobs to each other, where we really and truly don't work with each other. So he talks about a department who set up their own challenge exam. They thought it was the best exam in the world, but when it was taken to court, it was biased, and no student would ever have passed that exam. The only thing they really had to do was go across the building or across the street to the next building and say to the ed psych people, hey, can you review this and test the validity of it? But they didn't do it. So their charge was to be fair and open within their curriculum. They were not for that. So I love the topic we talked about that. But we are very multidisciplinary within our course reviews. My course review could be in the sense I'm not an electrician. The only thing I can tell you if the wire's hot is when I touch it with a finger. That's about it. So for me, I'm like, I don't know anything about that topic, but I can tell you the electricians most of the time I'm working with on the review, if we're reviewing a course that has a little bit of supervision and leadership in it, those are my areas. That's those areas that I'm actually reviewing. So we actually have to be multidisciplinary when we come into that standpoint. Team recommendations. I kind of already hinted to what we do on those recommendations. They can actually be either at the vocational or certificate level. They could be lower division, mostly at the 2-year, 4-year college over those first 2 years, upper division, baccalaureate, and then graduate level from that. And the other one I didn't put up there, which I'll talk about next, is there could be no credit recommendation, which I've seen that as well too, and we do that sometimes, not a lot, but we do that when we actually feel that there can be no credit recommendation made for a particular course. So we try to make sure we go across the spectrum. We have representation of 2-year, 4-year, and sometimes graduate faculty members on these committees. So I cannot, I've taught on the graduate level, but if I had never taught on the graduate level, there's no way I can make a credit recommendation for a graduate course if I've never taught it. So pretty much, again, our teams are very multidisciplinary, and the years of experience spans across that. Sometimes we cannot make a credit recommendation, like I mentioned, and it's for a number of different things. So sometimes stuff is just way too specific. So let's say if you guys work for Chris's Taco Shack, and you're at Chris's Taco Shack University, and we'll talk about my secret sauce, the El Diablo sauce, it can go nowhere else because it's secret. It's in the vault, just like Colonel Sanders stuff, so it's not portable for you. So I cannot make a credit recommendation because I know that student can't take it anywhere. So we get those a lot, and we get that from the military, but we also get that from the corporate world as well. I remember a few years ago, I went to Fort Rucker for a military review. When we walked in, half of the stuff was blacked out. I mean, like 2 lines on a page. And we're like, what's this? It was like, well, it hasn't been sanitized for you. You don't have security clearance. And we're like, okay, so we can't review. Well, no, you got to review. The colonel's expecting us, right? What can we review? And so I can tell you in 3 hours, when that colonel found out that they spent a lot of money to bring a team of 27 in for 3 days, and we were just going to relax and have fun on the beach, well, we're at Fort Rucker. Stuff got desanitized really quickly on that point. So it was really funny where all of a sudden we walked in the next morning, we had mountains of stuff to review, and there was no blackouts at all from there. So it does not matter who it is at any particular time from that. Academic rigor is not there, and that was mentioned earlier by Amy as well. Rigor has to be there. And I know sometimes people confuse rigor with how hard something is. We want to see if it's at that level it's supposed to be at. So going back to that Venn diagram, we want to make sure it's there from that. So that rigor has to be very much appropriate to the credit recommendation that they're seeking, or that we're looking at from there. Again, I've had some great courses, wonderful courses, but when I get to evaluation assessment, it's horrible. So I've seen some courses, this is actually with a private vendor. The course was great, loved it, wonderful. You got to assessment, it was like it was all true and false. It wasn't even multiple choice. It was just true and false. It was like, no, sorry, we can't do that. Not for this level of course here from that standpoint. And the last one that we get with is just, again, we just don't get enough material. And that sometimes hurts as well too, but we aren't allowed to coach them. So, because that would be me just saying, okay, we're going to come in and show you how to get credit. That's not what our job is, that's not what our charge is, and so from that point. So if they don't have enough material, they don't have enough, and it hurts, we just say we can't make a credit recommendation, and maybe you can reapply later on. And I have heard that it's kind of expensive within the ACE process within that. I don't know, because I don't handle the business aspect of things, and I should not know as being a reviewer. Any questions about the review process? You guys trust me or not? Seriously? Man, I got swamp water to sell you. So it's not hard. And like I said, everything I pretty much said to you is in that evaluation manual, except for just the anecdotal information about the reviews I've been on. So it's there, it's open, anyone can actually see it. There was a gentleman who was with the Alternative Credit Project. Did you see the rubric that we were working off of? Again, that's all open, it's out there, so there's nothing to hide in any way. And the one thing I did not like about that rubric, and they heard from me really quickly about it, was that it didn't really, the faculty members who were reviewing were not able to say what level of technology experience they had on teaching online courses. So that was one thing that did get me on that one, because if I taught one course and I saw what some of the people saw, I would think that was like, the best thing in the world. But for someone who's been teaching like 10 years online, I'm like, this is back in the Stone Age here. But that was the only thing that came up on that project that was of question and so from that point. But they fixed it, I think, in the next year. And it wasn't because of me, somebody else said it. JST, how many people have heard of this? Everyone should know this one. Yeah, so the JST is technically new, 3 years old. Believe it or not, the Department of Defense got the branches to talk to each other, and they got together and they created one transcript. Except for the Community College of Air Force. Why do you think the Community College of Air Force is not on here? Yep, they're already accredited, that's right. So that's one thing we do not do as ACE and even NCCRS, at least it wouldn't be okay if I said that, that any institution that is regionally accredited will not be, cannot be reviewed from that point, because that's just like us going against our own peers from that point in the battle match and everything. So the JST is the joint military transcript, service transcript for those individuals. It is not housed at ACE, so don't send them there for that. We have information about it, but don't send them there because it's just not ours. The material that you'll see in our guide online, how many people have been to the guide online, the military guide online? Okay, just a few people. How many people have seen the old book that used to come out? Okay, so I got a few more people there. Huh?
Big picture.
Yeah, I've never seen one. I can tell I've never seen it. So yeah, so sorry. But yeah, so if you guys have seen that one, there's something much better than that book probably. But so if you go to the guide online, everything that you'll see in our guide will actually be transposed into that transcript, because that's the agreement the Department of Defense and ACE has put together, but we don't own that transcript from there. From that. So pretty much the use of the DD-214, it's all right still, but this is actually the true document that's going with. Dante's is the Defense Activities Non-Traditional Education Services group that actually handles majority of the educational activities for the Department of Defense. So they're within the DoD from there. This is the military guide online. So I know I had 2 people here. Anybody else who was here last week when I did the faculty session? These guys went through and we played around with the guide. Was that okay? It was kind of fun. It was kind of boring, wasn't it? So, but this is the best database to use. This is the best database to use if you want to figure things out from that. So if you have a student walk into your office or anywhere and say, okay, I have this military training, you may say, well, go to the online guide and see what's there, give you an idea how to help advise them in that area from that. So we have a guide. You can see, you can look it up either by course or military occupation, whichever one if you know it. This is something you have to play around with. After 5 years, I still barely can use it. I mean, these guys will attest. I was clicking all over the place trying to figure out where to go, but you just have to use it on a regular basis to get used to it. These are some of the groups that we deal with on the corporate level. Yeah, so we have a lot. So again, Hamburger U from there, Starbucks, which is a really neat review I've heard. I've never been on that. Disney is a really good review because you get to meet the big guy. And I was thinking that he was the CEO. There's Mickey Mouse walking in the room. So, but it's like, come on. Jiffy Lubes, Stats Contacts, these are some of the other agencies we work for, some of our national exams as well too. So we do, as you can see, College Board. So we look at both CLEP and CLEP exams for the College Board. And I think we actually have credit recommendations for all 32 of their exams. This is the guide that you would use for the corporate area. From there, kind of similar to the military, except you just look up the company or corporation or group. Again, this is just a regular database. You kind of do your search. One of the things that's really good about this is when you, especially when you get a portfolio and you may get a student who gives you their resume, and it may show that they work for one of these companies. So then you can always ask the question, did you work for McDonald's? Did you go through their management training? So they may have credit there. It could be were you at Jiffy Lube, or were you with, what's another good one over here? Let's see, military controllers. No, we don't want to do that. There's actually 1 or 2 HR groups in here as well too, if someone's had some kind of training. Skillsoft is another area too. Anyone ever heard of Skillsoft before? So people, some companies, I was going to say forced, that's bad, isn't it? Require some of their employees to take some of those trainings for professional development. Skillsoft is in here, Dale Carnegie's in here. So any of those areas there that you may see on someone's resume, it's maybe good to kind of advise them to see, because they may have credit out here as well. So, I think Amy mentioned this earlier. It's not that difficult, but it's not that easy in this process. It takes a lot of communication. It takes a lot of work. It's rough. at the beginning because you're getting started, but as I shown earlier, there are so many examples out there where you just make it easy. And believe it or not, most of these people are easy to talk to. You just call them and say, hey, I saw this online, I saw this on your website, can you help us out? We're trying to get there. Majority of the time, they're happy to do it. Now, the people in California, they may say, where are you from, what district? They may think you're trying to bite off of them, I don't know. But for the most part, they're pretty good about working with you. I know that there is a movement, I hate to say movement, there is a movement or initiative to create a national PLA database or a portal where people can go get resources and stuff at. I don't know how long that's going to be in the making, but that came up in a webinar a couple of months ago. And Man Travelers out of New York, I can't remember the name of the Empire State College, which I think they were one of the first that really got into PLA. She's heading up that project, or she's part of the people on that project, so definitely look up Empire State in upstate New York for that information there from that. A lot of this was what we've already talked about, looking at these areas here from that point. I know ACE, or ACE as you say it, would actually love if you took their recommendations to heart, and if they say 17 credits, you take 17 credits, because I hear people say that all the time. Well, ACE told us to. I'm like, no, it's a recommendation. You have to mold this, use this to way for your institution. One size does not fit all. So if you're in the middle of, say, Kansas or even Nebraska, I don't think you're going to be focusing on too many Coast Guard and Navy courses sometimes. Maybe not. So you really, truly want to look at where you're at. I don't think there's any major military installations close to Dallas, is there? So joint count, okay, yeah. So if you have that, and you probably have a lot of reserve National Guard units, those are still viable people. Those are still great people to use as well, and look at their occupations from that, so you can do that search as well. So there's always a way to work this and look at this to your advantage. Now, I know Christine already talked about this in your binder, in your folder. There's actually a flyer there for recruitment. The best way to actually respect the process is actually become a reviewer. You'll know it, love it, breathe it. It's like drinking the Kool-Aid almost from there. But becoming a reviewer is the best part. It is, because again, you see the process, you'll understand it, you'll respect it. And we have a number of people who are retiring and stepping down. So some of those people who started teaching me 5 and 6 years ago, they're already retiring, stepping down. So we do need to refill the ranks from that point. So you definitely don't want me to say I'm the senior person on the review. That's from there. So go to the website here. The link's on the bottom. It's also on the flyer that you have. You don't get called up immediately. I know when I first put my information in the database, it probably took a year and a half before I got kind of spun up on the list from there. But since then, I can probably tell you I've done close to 37 military reviews. I've done about 10 to 15 corporate reviews from that point. So again, once you're in the lineup, and once you kind of gone through the training process and you kind of show that you have the right stuff to handle it, which is there. And the biggest thing is about collaboration and about that process. And I've had faculty members who I've teamed with and who were just adamant that no, this has to be like this because this is only at my institution. We do it like this, but you have to be a little bit more global in your thinking from that point, because again, that's just kind of how it works within that process. We're not letting you do it just for your institutional cultural aspect, but also that talking about the whole level of curriculum from that. So, any questions? Oops.
How do these standards or criteria meet or fit with when a district uses a program like Quality Matters to internally review the quality of a course. Does that influence your decisions or anything?
Not really within that sense, because again, when we make our credit recommendations based on within the group, it is collaborative, and even though I may not be a subject matter expert, I do know curriculum, I do know the flow of curriculum from there. So at the end of the day, before we make any unofficial credit recommendation, the entire group's sitting around a table and we talk about it. And someone may sit back, and I can say, like Georgia is at Liscombe University, he's a dean, and he would say, you know what, Chris, I don't know, I'm looking at this assessment here, or looking at what you wrote about this assessment, it may be missing a piece, let's go back and review it, and then if the rest of the group feels the way George do, we won't make that credit recommendation. So again, it does follow the level of the curriculum review process, which, so like I said, sometimes can bring back bad memories, but it is there because it is the group looking at this in a very holistic way from there. So, and then actually, once we make our credit recommendation, which is why I did say it was unofficial, it does go back to DC, ACE. There's another group of faculty members that they've got together, smaller group, that will actually double check what we've done. From our write-ups that will go in the guide, so the registrar and you guys will see them, making sure that we cover all of the areas before that thing goes live. Because, and again, it's to make sure that we don't make that mistake, because once it goes live, you can pull it back, but it's just there. So you don't want to do that before it goes live. Does that? Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, if you go to the very last page of your...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just giving you an example. But no, go.
No, I find this, your corporate program really interesting. And so I was, while you were talking, I pulled it up and found out you have various partners. And like, for example, one of them is Chili's, which is headquartered in the Dallas area. What I'm curious is that, did Chili's approach ACE, as far as you know, to do this, or was this done in reverse?
That's a good question. I don't know. Again, because of my status as a reviewer, I don't get involved with any of the business processes from that standpoint, so I couldn't tell. I do know that, like most organizations, I do know they have a business, I can't remember her name, but there's a business development organization or so from that point. So I would say they probably do go out and seek, and other people as well seek that, seek the group. I mean, when I'm on reviews, the organizations say, well, we sought this. And actually, you have to say, and maybe we can rewrite this down. There was a webinar we did on return of investment 2 summers ago that talked about organizations that sought the recommendation of ACE and why. So I can see if I can find that and ship that off to Christine, and she can put that link up on there.
It would be, because some of the organizations we work with are not listed here, but I thought they should be. But I don't know what the process is. Like, for example, the National Retail Federation is not listed, which is amazing, because they have a whole series of accreditations that they use for their internal, for member, I guess, employees.
Yeah, and then maybe you want to send in there, or at the same time, too, if you go back to that 3rd or 4th slide, I have I remember the slides, but no, if you go back and talk about that process, I did mention articulation agreements. You can do local articulation agreements with groups and organizations as an institution. So that way we're another one as well. So if they're local and it's a group that you want to work with, and I don't even know if they have to truly be local, as long as you go through the same standards and these, some of the items that Kevin mentioned earlier, you can actually do that. And there are some organizations that have done that as well. They've worked with different corporations right then in that local area or in that region. So, anything else? Okay, I got 2 questions for you. You guys got any plans for the weekend? I was like, no. You're going to read those articles I sent to you, right? Yeah, so you see what I do on my weekend. So I'll turn it back over to you if they have no questions.
Thank you.